Right. Hey, Cat. Thank you
Hi.
so much for joining me this morning. And it's only 2 months to go until the Isle of Wight Conference. Wow. 2 months.
Come round so quick.
Super quick, super quick. So you're with me today, and I'm going to be asking you some questions like I asked some of the other colleagues who are coming earlier on in the year. I'm going to ask you the same questions. So I obviously know who you are because I met you at the Dyslexia show many years ago, and we've networked and we've done live streams and all sorts of things. But for the audience who don't know you, could you maybe share some career highlights and a fun fact about you that has nothing to do with neurodiversity?
Yeah, absolutely. My career highlights. So my name's Cat Eadle. I'm the founder, one of the co-founders of the Dyscalculia Network. Probably my first career highlight was actually getting trained to be a dyscalculia specialist back in 2003. I was just one of those situations when you're in the right time in the right place. And I trained with Doreen Yo, and she was absolutely the most incredible person to be trained by. And she literally sparked my passion in teaching maths. And that has completely changed the trajectory of my whole career since then. So that's probably my biggest career highlight. And then starting my own business, which is quite amusing because it was to gain some work-life balance, which has now gone right back out of the window. But I starting my own business was really important to me. And obviously the network is probably my biggest achievement that's public, because obviously the network is quite a beast now. So I'm very proud of that, and I'm proud of what we can do to help people. There's more we can do, but I'm proud of how far we've got in a short time, bearing in mind it's volunteer led. But a fun fact about me, I'm not sure I'm very fun, to be honest. I'm not really that kind of fun person, and it probably is linked to my neurodiversity, but I actually really like to upcycle things, and I buy most things secondhand. I'm not a massive fan of buying things new. If I can buy something secondhand and do something quirky with it, then I tend to do it. So, for example, there's only, I think, about 2 pieces of new furniture in my whole house. I always buy something secondhand and paint it or upholster it or do something with it.
Oh, wow, I love that fun fact about you. And for anybody that's seen, I've been doing 3 truths and a lie with my speakers. Don't disclose it yet. I'm going to wait until the day for you to tell me. But you're currently wearing green. I'm convinced that you like green, and green is your favourite colour. I now know that you like to upcycle things. So that is helping me work out which one the lie might be. So thanks so much for sharing that with us. So, Kat, why is neurodiversity something you are so passionate about?
I think it stems, first of all, from not finding school easy myself. I found school really challenging. I think potentially I'm autistic. I've not been diagnosed. And I also found English really quite challenging. I had to work really hard at it. And again, I've never been diagnosed as dyslexic, but it probably wouldn't surprise me. I find phonetic understanding of things quite challenging. But because of that, I was always drawn somehow back to the education system and trying to help children like me who found it challenging and weren't very happy at school, to be honest, especially in primary school. I really wasn't very happy. I'd have much rather been at home. And so I kind of wanted to give back. And when I started teaching primary school initially, I was always drawn to the children who found school difficult and tried to change that for them. And so that's kind of gone through my whole career. And I think many teachers maybe go into teaching because we feel like, we want to improve the education system for children. And that's certainly the case for me.
I love that. And I think that's quite similar to my story. Like, I was just kind of drawn to children that learned differently. And I just found it like a challenge isn't the right word, but I loved that challenge in as much as, how can I present this to you so that you do understand it?
Exactly.
I love that.
Exactly. And now it's kind of spread into adults and learning about myself as well, because I think it's a journey for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And creating a massive network of people with a free bank of resources. It's amazing. If you haven't already, you should definitely go and check out the Dyscalculia Network website, because there is so much free advice and support on there. You also do paid trainings and things, don't you, as well? So definitely go check out the website, Dyscalculia Network website, if you haven't already. So, Kat, have you ever been to the Isle of Wight before?
I haven't, and I am so excited to come to the Isle of Wight because I haven't been, and I don't really know very much about it. So I'm actually extending my stay when I come because I'm so excited.
So when you think of the Isle of Wight, out of interest, what are you expecting?
I think somewhere kind of small and welcoming, and with lovely beaches and nice places to walk and fresh air. Really, I think is what springs to mind.
Yeah, there's some really lovely walks actually on the island. Great places to walk. So yeah, let me know if there's anywhere you particularly want to go, and I'll suss out a walk for you.
Well,
go for it.
I was just going to say, thinking of my upcycling, I've seen you picking up sea glass, and I'm rather a fan of sea glass as well. So I'll definitely be wanting tips on if there's anywhere good for sea glass.
Most of the beaches are amazing actually for sea glass. How are you feeling about the ferry ride?
I'm not a massive fan of ferries. I prefer a plane, to be honest. But you know, it's like everything. We just get on with it and do it, don't we?
Yeah, I promise you it will be okay. It will be okay. Interestingly, last year, Louise Selby came last year, and Dr. Helen Ross is back for a second year. But both of them said they were so excited when they got on the ferry. And Jamie Wace came last year to talk about Talamo. And they all put their little selfies on social media on their various ferries that they were on. But they said, actually, Helen was saying she just loves it because it's almost like you're traveling to work in like a really different way. So we'll pray for calm weather and sunshine, and it will all be fine.
Weather, because I'm not a fan of boats.
it will all be fine. So, Kat, what is the title of your talk, and why do you think people, not just the delegates, but why do people need to hear what you have to say in your talk?
So the title of my talk is Practical Solutions for Specific Learning Difficulties in Maths and Dyscalculia in the Classroom. That's a mouthful, isn't it? But basically, tips and things that might help you to help children engage with maths. And that applies to all children, because I think that what we do for children who are maybe struggling with maths might help with dyscalculia, might help all learners, in fact. And for me, I want to make maths practical, accessible, and most importantly, take away the maths anxiety and make it fun. So I'm hoping that I can give some tips and ways that I do that in my own teaching that other people might not have thought of, or might know about and thought, oh, I've forgotten about that, and bring it back into the forefront.
Yeah. So is it going to be quite practical, hands-on kind of workshop?
It might well be quite practical, and which leads to another question I think you've got very nicely, actually.
Yeah. So I have got a question, but before I go on to that question, I wanted to ask you why maths, in as much as maths is like, because I've obviously gone down the dyslexic route, you've gone down the dyscalculia route. So sorry to put you on the spot, but why maths, and why are you so passionate about dyscalculia and raising awareness of that?
Well, it stemmed really from that initial training with Dorian Yeo. And I think because I didn't feel particularly confident with English myself, it was something, I was a primary school teacher, so I had to teach it, but I didn't love teaching it. I was okay, but I always quite liked teaching maths. And I always felt quite confident in the basics of maths and trying to get those across. But because I didn't find learning particularly easy at school, I also understand how it feels. So the combination of feeling a little bit more confident myself in that subject, but also understanding how children felt, I feel went quite nicely together. But really, it was that training in 2003 with Dorian Yeo, where I was being a primary teacher, and I was at a school, I was working at a boys' school for boys with learning difficulties, and it was that school that sent me on that training. And then I had lots of pupils who needed my support, and as I realized the difference that you could make if you knew more about maths teaching, that kind of like just inspired me on and on. And then when I was running my own business, the network, it came from the fact that people were inquiring and I couldn't help everybody. And I was like, well, where else can I send people to? Where else can they get information? And that's when I discovered, and I don't know why I didn't know this sooner. It kind of had that, although there was the BDA Dyscalculia Committee, which is brilliant, you know, Steve Chin, Pete Jarrett, and the team there were doing a fantastic job. There wasn't a charity or an organisation with that dyscalculia in the title. And I was like, well, that's really not fair on the people with dyscalculia. And dyscalculia is not as known about as dyslexia. It's a bit of the, underdog. So I was like, no, we need to change this. And it's, and speaking to people like our adult advisory board, speaking to adults and hearing their stories about when they're children and how they feel about maths now because of their experiences. I think that's really like forced me to think about the whole of the education system and the whole journey from being a young child all the way up to adulthood. And that's kind of, again, that's made me more passionate about making a difference and trying to help people. But it's not easy, but at least we're doing our best.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so I'm going to put you on the spot again now, but what would be like the top 5 signs of dyscalculia, like the top things that you might notice within a learner experiencing dyscalculia?
Okay, so it depends, I suppose, if you're talking about a child or an
So
adult.
let's go children. Let's go children in education.
So, I mean, dyscalculia itself, and I'll talk about this in my talk, but we're now following a new definition in England. The assessors are following a new definition. And so because the assessors are following a new definition, we are too. So we're now looking at specific learning difficulty in maths being the overriding diagnosis. And then for some learners, they may have dyscalculia as part of that as well, or, you know, however say it, they have dyscalculia. So dyscalculia is a very specific and persistent difficulty with numbers. And the overriding difficulty is with numerical magnitude processing, which means comparing and ordering numbers, estimating numbers, and understanding place value. So they're all things we could be looking out for in both the child and adult, but it might present differently in both of those cases. So, but as well as those things, somebody might be diagnosed with a specific learning difficulty with maths, but not dyscalculia. So that would be somebody who maybe is struggling with maths because of their executive functioning, their ability to stay on task, or their ability to sequence and process, maybe linked to their dyslexia. So there's a specific learning difficulty in maths, which is kind of lots of different reasons for that might be, and we might spot different things, but dyscalculia is very specific.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for that. I know we could talk about that for hours.
It's a lot. It's a big topic at the moment. Yeah,
a tiny bit of context is great. So the next question then was: so since the lockdowns, many conferences have moved to being online, which is actually incredible, because some of the reason I think why the network and companies like mine have done so well, because it's sort of exploded because you can reach people. But conferences are often online now because it's much cheaper, much more cost effective, I guess, in some way. Like I am struggling at the minute. I'm trying to secure sponsors and things because in-person events are much more expensive. But I definitely feel they have a place. So why or what do you think is unique about an in-person conference, and why do we need to keep them alive?
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I was talking yesterday because I went to a neurodiversity event yesterday that was in person, and we were talking. Somebody asked me the exact same question, and luckily I've been thinking about it. So I think that the human connection is really important. And I think that although online we reach an audience worldwide quite often, which is the advantage, when you do meet people in person, you can have those personalized conversations. And I think, especially if you're neurodiverse, meeting somebody in person and judging them is a little bit easier, of judging where the conversation is going to go. And reading them is a little bit easier because you've got all their body language, not just their face. So from that point of view, from a neurodiverse point of view, I find it really nice to be in person with people and talk to them. But from a maths teaching point of view, I drone on and on about maths being practical, hands-on, and so on. And that, although we can teach it online very well, and I've got second cameras and all so on, in a conference, it's quite difficult to show that. And when you get to see people face to face, you get to give them the materials, give them the ideas, and have that discussion. And I think the main thing for me is also people talk with other people. So I'm just facilitating a discussion, really. When you're leading something, you're facilitating, well, what ideas have you got, and how would you take this and move it in another direction? Because we're talking about professionals who come to these conferences who've already got all their own experience and loads of ideas. And sometimes, like I did, you just need a spark to send you off, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I get this, I can do that. So I think it's that igniting that spark that you can do in person, and people also talking to each other, which also gives that extra kind of like something.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, particularly if we think about neurodivergence in general, like, you know, if I think about dyslexia, we learn so well through having a discussion. Actually, watching and listening is not how we learn best. Being able to ask questions, watch things, you know, actually, that's how we often learn best anyway. Okay, so final question then, Kat. What are you most looking forward to about the day?
I think for me, it's the fact that I have an opportunity to maybe meet new people myself, and I always love meeting new people and making connections, and widening our Dyscalculia community and encouraging more people to join and follow us and learn about Dyscalculia. So that's obviously really important. But I hope that it inspires some educators to do some fun practical maths with their learners and not be afraid to make the learning a little bit different, and think about what the learner needs as the central. And I think all teachers are brilliant at that, and it can be really challenging, but I think if we can just inspire some fun practical maths ideas that might work for all our learners, then I'd be pleased.
Amazing, cool. And I know that Rob last year actually came back and delivered some specific training to one group of schools. So, you know, again, I'm kind of really hoping that it's going to inspire and, you know, get people to look into the network and book you to come back and do more stuff, if we can cope with the ferry, that is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, Kat, and sharing your thoughts on those. And I will see you on the 13th of November. Well, actually, I'll see you the night before, the day before, on the 12th of November. But yeah, the conference is the 13th of November. We've still got spaces available, which is really good. I think we've sold about half the tickets now, which is amazing. I mean, this time last year, we hadn't even started selling it. We sold it out in about 6 weeks. So I'm hopeful we're still going to sell it out. Exciting times ahead. So I will see you on the 13th. I will see you later.
Thank you. And well done you.
Thank you.